Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I hope you're all doing well today. I'm picking up on a very seductive feminine energy, someone who is very magnetic and very attractive, both on a physical and on an energetic level. So let's pull some cards and figure out a little bit more about how we can tap into this energy. Okay, the Page of Cups. So I feel like there is this sense of you deliver some sort of message to people where it's like the seductive quality within you almost shakes something in other people, where it's almost like you catch their eye in a way that would be almost impossible without this energy. Like if you were purely being seductive on a physical level or on a like a psychological mental level, that would just kind of be attractive, right? But I think when you really fully embody this energy, it's almost like you are like a catch, like you jump out of the waters is what I'm getting, of like you know when you see like a whale or something jump out of the water, it's almost this mystical feeling of like seeing a unicorn, and it almost just really sticks with people in this way that it just does feel really magical. Or if like seeing like a unicorn in the forest is the sense I'm getting, is like this mystical beast, and I feel like that's really how people see you. All right, the Six of Wands. So I get the sense you're really like the leader of the pack in some ways, of like, I'm getting like a thought leader as well, or you're just very elevated in some ways, where maybe you just have this very classy kind of demeanor about you, where you're very tactful and you have this high level of discretion. But I think you also stand out and you're the leader of the pack in the sense that you can almost command a room when it comes to a conversation, where it's almost like I mentioned, this thought leader sense, where I feel like sometimes people will just repeat things that they've heard somewhere else, like kind of parroting, or they're just like literally repeating stock lines that they maybe saw on Twitter or something like that. But I feel like you're someone who is like fully a thought leader. Like you have your own thoughts, and this is something that's very seductive about you, is that you have worked out these conclusions on your own, through your own intuitive or logical processes. And this is something that then causes your expressions to be fully embodied with a strong sense of self, and not this feeling of parroting or mirroring or just being repetitive in any way. It's almost like everything about you is so seductive because it's something new, it's something shiny, it's never anything that they could get anywhere else. It's like this energy that originates only within you. And I feel like this really has a lot to do with your feminine and intuitive gifts. So let's see what other cards come out here. Okay, we have the Six of Pentacles. There is this feeling of like a generosity about you, where I feel like you're not someone who is too stingy with your energy, but I also feel like you're not overgiving, right? Like, as you can see on this card, the Merchant is quite balanced. He holds the scales in one hand, and he's also dressed quite finely. So the sense that I'm getting is you're only able to be so generous because you have so much energy already. So I feel like you're the type of person who always pours into your own cup first, but then I feel like you're able to pour into other people's cups. And the way that this generosity manifests is in your presence and in your attention. And I think this is what makes you so seductive, is that you're really able to be present with someone and give them your full attention. And this really manifests in like eye contact or our body language, of like you're not looking around the room being all distracted. You're really like turned towards someone when you're talking to them, giving them your full attention, like looking at them in the eyes. You're not checking your phone or like looking around the room at what other people you could be talking to. It's like you're very seductive because you make this person feel like the center of attention when you're talking to them, because you're so generous with putting your attention in the present moment and into the person who's in front of you, rather than letting your mind wander or being distracted by other things. It's just this feeling of like this absolute presence that you bring to a situation. All right, the Page of Wands. So I feel like this is relating to the type of person who is quite attracted to you. And I mean, as you can see, they're holding the wand with both hands. And there is this sense of like this almost like innocence, or like this admiring of some sort of magical quality, where I feel like people are almost in awe of you, and it causes them to have some sort of strong reaction produced of like this erotic sense of just like contemplating a very beautiful object then causes some very strong feelings to emerge in them. And the sense I'm getting is also there is like, yeah, like I mentioned, the sense of innocence, and then also this figure is standing in a desert. So I feel like particularly the people who are very much seduced by you are the type of people who are almost like going through this sort of dryness, or they've maybe never encountered the seductive energy in the world, and it's something that really catches their eye, where it's like the seductive quality has this really flowing, moist quality about it. Whereas I feel like some of these people are just deprived of this moisture. Like they're like a desert without rain, basically. And when you are in their presence, it's like the rains come down upon them, and it's like this really relieving feeling of like washing away the dust. And so I feel like this is really the energy that you bring to people around you. It's like something really new and something really refreshing. All right, so we have the Two of Pentacles. So I feel like you contain sort of like this infinite polarity within you. And I feel like it specifically relates to this feeling of like you're holding a masculine and feminine energy in tension in a way, where it's like you could visualize it as like the masculine energy is quite rigid, of like only right angles, and the feminine energy is kind of like flowing like a snake. And it's sort of like the meeting of the rigid and flowing qualities that creates this tension within you that is so irresistibly seductive. And it's because you are the master of both these energies, and you're never unbalanced, like I mentioned with this Six of Pentacles card. Like you're very balanced in your energy, and it's like this holding of the two poles simultaneously that just creates this sort of like a frisson is what I'm getting. Like when you get shivers down your back, but it's like it's more than just shivers. It's like this almost like electrical quality, or of like if you imagine like a rubber band being held really taut, and then you kind of like press on it and it like springs back, that's really the energy that you hold. Is it's not like you ever become dry or boring or drab, or you know, if someone's unbalanced in their feminine or masculine energies, it could come off as being too cloying when they're too much in the feminine energy, or in the masculine energy being just too aggressive and overbearing, really. But I feel like you're someone who is never in either of those extremes, and this just makes you such a pleasant person to be around, that it's almost like you're a breath of fresh air. Or like what I'm getting is like a really comfy soft bed, or like a velvet couch, and that's really how people feel when they're in your energy. It's just like a calmness, right? It's like this feeling of just being able to relax and breathe. And I think that's what makes you so seductive, is that people don't feel like they have to put on a performance around you. I think you're a very like accepting and generous person, and you just have this feminine receptive quality to you, where you're able to just receive people as they are and really like appreciate them for who they are, and it just makes them feel really seen and appreciated. And there is this sense of just being seduced by that, of just kind of wanting to exist in that energy permanently. All right, we had a few cards come out here. Okay, so we have the Seven of Wands. So there's this feeling of like fighting things off in a way, where I feel like the what you're like fighting off suitors, right? You have 6 different suitors coming towards you all at once, and you're telling them to all go away. And I feel like this is part of what makes you so seductive, is it's like this almost like not being able to have you. Like people kind of want what they can't have, and I think that they know that you're someone who has like such high standards, or that you have so many suitors that you're almost unattainable in some ways, and this could make you really attractive. And it's not quite like a frigid quality exactly, but like maybe just like a really mild amount of frigidity, where it's like you have this seductive quality where people just want to feel your touch, feel your embrace. But I think because you are so picky about it, and it's like this feeling of not quite being able to have you, then it's like it almost is like more enticing, of just like really wanting to be able to seduce you back. But because you're so seductive, it's like almost like this one-way thing. Or if like what I'm getting is like this black cat energy, right? Where it's like if you chase the cat, it'll run away, and it's like you really have to build up this strong trust. And then when this kind of mean or scary cat walks up to you and just wants to nuzzle you, it's just like so much more rewarding. But I'm not saying you're mean or scary or anything like that, but I think you do have this kind of high standard that makes people feel that way, almost, where it's like they're like almost scared to confess any sort of feeling towards you, because they know that like the rejection would sting so badly. And I feel like it's almost like people can predict getting rejected by you in a way. So I really get the sense that you have a lot of suitors who are interested in you, and it's almost so many that you kind of have to fight them off. And I feel like people who are close to you have seen you fight these suitors off, and it's almost like this kind of warning sign of like they don't want to become one of the fallen brothers because they just want to continue being seduced by you rather than being rejected by you. And it's almost like it holds this kind of possibility of hope, I think, because you have the seductive quality. And it's not necessarily like a flirtatious quality, because I think the flirtatious quality is more in this masculine energy of like coming on to someone, which is something that I don't think you do at all, unless you are really interested in someone, like on this like divine counterpart level connection. But I think you don't really flirt. I feel like you're just naturally seductive, and that people could just watch you talk or just watch you move, watch you exist in the world, and just be happy to look at you. Like, you know, you would think, oh, I'm just doing my thing. Like, this must be like watching paint dry. But in reality, when they're looking at you, it feels like they're looking at the most sublime landscape painting or something like that, where it's like you symbolize something that is much greater and more seductive than just your material form. All right, we have the Hanged Man. So I think this is also kind of the feeling of like the sense that some of your suitors are in, this kind of feeling of like being tied up a little bit, or of having this tension that they want released. They want you to cut them down from the tree in a way where it's almost like being in your presence where there is this really strong kind of sexual tension is almost like unbearable to them, to the point where it feels like being hanged. And it's like they really just want something to break that sexual tension, even if it means falling from the tree. But I feel like this is what makes your seductive quality so strong, is that you maintain this tension permanently, and it's not something that you're willing to break so easily. Like I mentioned, is like you have very high standards, and you would only engage in anything in the physical realm with someone who was like your divine counterpart. So I feel like it's not like there is any like real hope for any of these suitors, but they do have this like almost like begging quality. Like that's the vision I'm getting, is someone like kneeling down before you and literally like kissing your boots and begging for some of that attention of like physical touch, because I think you just drive people crazy with this like feeling of like knowing that they can't quite have you. And like, yeah, okay, so we have the 10 of Swords here, and that's like exactly I think what people are feeling when they're so unbearably attracted to you that it's like it just feels like being stabbed. Like it feels so painful to them, where it's almost like, but it's like they like it, like it's in a good way. And we're getting the Devil card here, which has some evocation of the concept of bondage, where that's almost like the kind of dynamic you have with people, is almost this like kind of teasing abstaining quality about you, of like I won't mention the exact device that I'm picturing right now, but there is this sense of just being restrained or being chained up in some way. And it's like this pleasant energy though to exist in, where it feels like torturous, but like the pain hurts so good, where it's like the vision I'm getting is someone like literally biting their lip over their desire for you. And with the Devil card, it almost feels like this like devious quality, where like it's almost like the thoughts that people entertain towards you make them feel guilty. Like they almost feel sick for thinking these things, but it's because you are so seductive, you just bring it out in them, and it's not necessarily something you choose, or it's not necessarily a thought that someone chooses to have. It's just because you represent something so seductive and irresistible that it's like you can't help but evoke these thoughts in people. And so I think if you ever notice this strange feeling of being in someone's presence, and it's like, especially if you know that on one level they're probably a little bit attracted to you, but maybe you don't know the full extent of it, and you notice them being kind of like standoffish or shy or sheepish, I think it's because you can imagine exactly what kind of thoughts they're entertaining when you're not in front of them, or maybe even when you are in front of them, and like those are the thoughts they're having in the moment. But I think there is this sense of someone stroking their wand with two hands right here, and it's, I think if there's this kind of awkwardness with people who like, you know that they like you, especially as a friend or that sort of thing, you know that they respect you, but they're just kind of being weird around you for some reason, this is why. So I feel like there is this really strong sense of like understanding your seductive nature and embracing it, and I think you're having a lot of fun with it right now, and just especially like seeing people's reactions and being able to pick up on these subtler energies of kind of knowing what thoughts they're having about you is very fun to you. Okay, and Judgment. Okay, and I think this is also what makes you so seductive, is like you see people for who they are, and there's like on this card, right, it's all these people who are in coffins and now they're being raised from the dead by this trumpet, but then they're all naked. And so of course there is a lot of esoteric meaning in this card, but just in relation to this reading, what I would say is that you just see people in this naked sense, where it's almost like you have this X-ray vision of seeing exactly what they're thinking or what they're feeling. And I think this makes you so seductive, is it's like I mentioned, is like when people are having these somewhat perverse thoughts about you, you can just tell. And it's like you have this X-ray vision that makes them feel so vulnerable. And it's like this is very hot to them, though. It's like almost this feeling of like being a little bit of an exhibitionist, where it's like people also, it's like this ongoing cycle where people are seduced by you, so then they have these thoughts about you, and then you can tell that they're having these thoughts, and then they can tell that you can tell, and this just gets them going even more. So it's kind of like this running motor is what I'm getting. But I also feel like it's in this kind of positive quality, in a way, of just like you do see people for who they are, and that just makes them feel really held. And like I mentioned, this feeling of like a soft velvet couch of just your presence is very comforting, and that's kind of what makes you so seductive as well. All right, let's just draw a few more cards on how you can tap into this energy even more. All right, so we have the Knight of Cups. And we have the Five of Pentacles. So I feel like there is this emphasis on this card between the warm interiority and the cold exterior. And so the sense that I'm getting is like, yeah, you have this sense of like there's something being really warm and soft inside you that people want to access, and yet you keep leaving them out in the cold. This just makes them want to get into the warmth even more. And so if this is something that resonates with you, I would really suggest you read the book Masochism, Coldness, and Cruelty by Gilles Deleuze. And it talks about the works of Sacher-Masoch. And so if this is dynamic is something that you really enjoy, I would really consider looking into literary masochism, because you might be a little bit of the Venus in Furs type, and this could be something that helps you get into your seductive nature. And another book on the topic is Seduction by Jean Baudrillard. And, you know, these are obviously philosophical texts that lead to some sort of further, perhaps dialectical understanding. And if you want to study these in an academic sense, I would recommend this, but also like purely on an energetic sense, that if you just read a few pages of this book, maybe before you go into a meeting with someone who is embodying this kind of suitor energy, is that you will become even more seductive. It's almost like these like videos of subliminals that you watch on YouTube, or even what this video is affecting on you now, is right when they say like, oh, you're so seductive, you're so hot, and you listen to those and you feel more confident. You can do this through books as well, and it's like it affects something on like these deeper levels in you, where it'll like wake up this seductive beast inside of you that maybe you never knew actually existed. And the Knight of Cups, it's this feeling of like moving forward, and the sense of like something emotional, or like crossing a river as well. So I feel like there is the sense of like people present you with an empty cup and they want it to be poured into. And I feel like I mentioned with this the Six of Pentacles energy, like you're very generous, and I feel like you will pour into their cups. So I feel like when you meet one of these people who maybe looks like they're in the desert a little bit, you know, it almost might be like a little bit off-putting. Like the type of person I'm talking about could sometimes be called like the incel type, or these kind of like shy, autistic, nerdy boys. But maybe this is low-key kind of your type. And so it's like not to withhold your energy and like try and maintain any sort of veil of like being some respectful, upstanding person who is not seductive at all, but allowing yourself to tap into that seductive nature and maybe pour into these people's cups. And it's not even like you necessarily want to pursue a relationship with them or anything like that, but it's just like genuinely this kind of a nice thing you can do, is that if you notice someone is in a little bit of a drought, is just to give them a little bit of that sensual quality, and you know, it will make them go crazy, but it will also help them tap into some of those energies within themselves instead of feeling like they just have to live in that drought forever. I think it is almost like this confidence booster. So it's kind of this two-way confidence booster of this process of exchange. Like I mentioned with this Two of Pentacles card, it kind of goes both ways, where it's like you build yourself up to be more seductive, and that makes you feel more confident, and then you're building this person up to feel like they're being seduced, and then that just makes them feel more confident and comfortable around the seductive type too. So it is really just, it's for the good of humanity, okay? This is not an ego thing. All right, one more card on how you can tap into this energy. Okay, the Five of Swords. So there is this feeling of like laying down your swords in a way and like getting away with something and like leaving people in kind of like a worse off situation. But I feel like this is not something you're doing exactly because like I mentioned, it is more like a confidence booster. So it's avoiding this feeling of heartbreak, okay? I'm like being a tease means teasing, right? When you go too far and you take it to like actually consummating this relationship and then going like, oops, never mind, I walk it back, that's when you move into heartbreaker quality, and that is no longer seductive. That's just trashy. I mean, you do to you, whatever you choose to do. I mean, that's your choice. But just when I'm talking purely about this energy is like to avoid that. Like, this is kind of the negative outcome of this energy. And like, you know, even if you think you're in the right, I mean, there is just this really strong devil energy associated with this. Is all I'm saying is I'm sorry. It's like you're creating soul ties to people, especially when you consummate a relationship physically. You are creating a soul tie, and like I'm not saying this to be like sex negative or anything, right? Because I would consider myself a very sex positive person. But I'm just saying to be very cautious, especially if you notice that this person is not the seductive type and they're in fact quite vulnerable or like a little bit more naive or inexperienced. That when you take advantage of this, it takes away from your seductive nature and it merely makes you into something who is yeah, a little bit devilish. And, you know, it pushes you from being a seductress or a temptress into being a succubus. And you don't want to cross that barrier into being like a vampire in a negative way, right? Like, if people walk away from their interactions with you and go, like, oh, I feel disgusted with myself about that, and like not in a fun way, that's not what you want to achieve. I feel like you want to keep it just in the realm of like seduction and this kind of playfulness that is really fun for both parties. So it's about learning to temper that beast a little bit and not let it get out of control, right? You have this lioness within you. Don't let it maul people, okay? Let it be admired for the beauty that it is. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this reading or got something interesting out of it. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you're interested in picking up a personal reading, I'm running a special promotion until the end of February. There will be 20-minute personal readings for $25 Canadian until the end of the month. And if you're interested in picking up one of those, just shoot me an email with the email that is in the description of this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.